Welcome to our IDA Award Spotlight series. My name is Nikki, and I am the Associate Events Manager here at the IDA. Today, we're going to have a great conversation around the series Impact with Gal Gadot. I come to you from Los Angeles on the unceded land of the Tongva and Chumash people who have been stewards of this land for generations. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our media sponsor, Variety, for helping us bring this series to you all today. I'd also like to thank our amazing ASL interpreter, Mara, for interpreting for us today. This series is open to the general public, and you can check out our full lineup at documentary.org/awards-spotlight, and all of our conversations will be premiering on IDA's YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, because I know you're not here to see me today, I'd like to introduce our incredible moderator, Claudia Puig, president of the LA Film Critics Association.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to be here today with the series director and executive producer, Vanessa Roth, and series subjects, Kayla Gore, Arianna Font Martin, and Chief Shirell Parfait-Dardar. Welcome, everybody. So thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Vanessa, I want to start with you. You've been a nonfiction filmmaker for over 25 years. You've won many awards in the documentary space and film and TV and journalism. How did you come up with this particular series idea? What was the impetus for it?
So this started as a collaboration and sort of continued as a collaboration from the beginning to the end. I feel like this series is something that I've been like dreaming up my whole life. Everything I've done is sort of some feeling of this series of just telling unheard narratives of powerful people that we just have not seen and heard from. And maybe because of that, then I was brought in actually by E1, which is the production company for this series, and Gal Gadot and Ryan Pallotta, who are my partners in the series. Ryan Pallotta had shot a short film that ends up being the first part of the Brazil episode, if you've seen the whole series, that he shot in 2016. And he had done that just as its own standalone piece of work, which was gorgeous. And Tara Long at E1 saw it, and Gal saw it, and Gal and her husband Yaron were looking for something to do that had purpose, that had meaning, that told stories that we hadn't heard before. So when they saw it, they felt this could really be a series. They brought me in to work on what that might look like, feel like, how we could make something that's both intimate and epic. We went, we just started looking for stories and got these gorgeous 6 stories that we ended up with for this first season. So again, it really was not my own personal vision. It was a collaborative vision. And then the women in the series are the ones that made it, actually what it is.
And it's so wonderful to have three of the amazing women that you profiled here with us. So how did you connect? What was the selection process? How did you hear about these different projects?
So finding the women for the series is similar to how I also have done other films as well. Me and a sort of small group of people went and looked. Actually, social media was interesting. We looked at Instagram pages of photographers and of stories around the world. We had looked at local newspapers. We had looked into organizations, into policies and politics and lawsuits going on, and all kinds of ways. Friends, other colleagues. And we actually had started the series thinking we were going to be traveling around the world. We had first started, we had a story in Indonesia, we had a story in Sierra Leone, we had a story in Egypt. And when COVID hit, we were really about to start in Sierra Leone. And then COVID hit and we stayed here. We took some time off to think through what we can do to still do more stories. And I find it just this precious gift that during that time we were able to think, where can we go and still tell these incredible kinds of stories? And we found, these stories. Chief Shirell we found through a photographer on Instagram named Julie Dermotsky, that she documents the land lost in Louisiana and knows Chief Shirell really well. So we found Chief Shirell through Julie. Kayla we found actually through her GoFundMe page, I believe, which she can talk about. And then Arianna, we found through, she had won her organization that she creates these water filters in Puerto Rico. We found her through an award that they won for young people in innovation.
That's amazing. Well, I want to talk to all of you women about the project too. So, Arianna, we'll start with you. I learned so much from your episode. I realized I'm a Latina, but there's so much I don't know about Puerto Rico. And I had no idea that people were going without clean drinking water since Hurricane Maria. That's been 4 years now. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the process of inventing Remora, this long-term water filtration system that, powered by solar energy. It sounds really complicated. So are you a science expert, or how did that come about when you're only in college? That's amazing.
Yeah, of course. Actually, funny enough, I am not a science major. I'm actually a business major. So, you know, coming across this project was really a challenge because really not understanding the technology is pretty tricky, especially when you really want to help people, but you have that sort of limitation when it comes to the knowledge of what you're doing. But every day we're learning about it. But yeah, so basically my brother was in this organization in college, and so he graduated. When he graduated, I went into college and I joined the same organization, right? And this organization basically takes care of basically allowing students to create innovative projects that help people, right, socially, economically, environmentally. And one of these projects was Remora. I pretty much joined when it was in very, very, very early stages, right? This project really came with after Hurricane Maria hit, and the idea that we have now is absolutely not the idea that we had back then. So yeah, it was just constant learning, changing what we really wanted to do. And so that process just came from going into competitions, changing our business model, losing competitions, winning competitions, listening to people, and especially listening to the people here and to the problems that exist here in Puerto Rico with the water crisis. Right. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a science major, but I'm learning every day. And definitely this is to help people. So the people that I work with aren't science majors either, but yeah, we're just doing it to really just solve a problem that a lot of people are sadly suffering from.
Absolutely. You mentioned in the course of your episode that the pressure on Latinas to stay quiet, not make a fuss, if you keep quiet, the prettier you look. I think I remember the quote being. So did you face any opposition along the way with people trying to block your efforts? I'm guessing that all of you have faced problems with people trying to stop you.
Yeah, I think the main obstacle was that because I'm very young, I'm a very young woman, you know, they tend to call us very naive. They tend to say that we're just learning, like they don't really take us seriously, right? And so like that process of like having adults just looking at us, looking at me like, "Ah, she's trying to, doing something that's never gonna happen. She's dreaming too big," and that kind of bothered me, right? And I think that would bother anyone, right? Just having someone look at you that way, like, no, I started this project, I joined the project when I was 18. But I still want to be taken seriously, regardless of my age, regardless of my gender, right? I want to be a woman that inspires change and that creates change. And I want to be treated, as an equal. So yeah, the obstacles are pretty difficult in that case, but with experience, you learn how to deflect them, or just how to manage them.
Good for you. You're learning early because a lot of us had to learn it a lot later. Kayla,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, all of you are helping people heal, which is something that I just found it really touched me and inspired me. With my sister's house, you're helping some of those vulnerable people in the country heal and have a place to call home, which is amazing. And you're saving people's lives. And you mentioned your experience 10 years ago of being homeless. How do you think that experience changed you and gave you this sense of dedication to do what you do?
Thank you for the question, Claudia, and thank you for having me. I would say, and I would always say this, and I never really think deep into it about like how my past experiences with homelessness basically organizes everything that we do here at my sister's house, from our hot meals to the things that we provide in our survival kits to the tiny house project. Like everything that I thought I needed when I was experiencing homelessness, we're providing it here, and all of the things that organizations provided to me when I was experiencing homelessness, we're also providing those things here. So I think like all of it is, and I said this during the filming of our episode of Impact, that it's all coming full circle. And funny enough, before we started filming, I took a cross country road trip, and I actually went back to Margaret T. Hance Park, where that's the park I lived in. I lived in that park on a bathroom vestibule. And I actually went back there just to, just to, I guess, find myself and to basically reconnect with who I was. And I really enjoyed that experience. And I think that is what that place, Margaret T. Hance Park, has like really impacted my life. And now I'm doing that, paying it forward.
Absolutely. How did you come up with the idea to start a GoFundMe campaign and the idea of the tiny houses? I mean, that's such a creative and interesting idea.
So during the pandemic, a lot of our members who had never experienced homelessness, never thought that they would experience homelessness, they were experiencing it because they couldn't go to work, they couldn't pay their bills, their utilities were cut off. We were at capacity. At that time, we could only house 4 people at a time. And we wanted to think like, how long is this thing going to last? How long are we going to be, dealing with this unsurety of what's happening in the world? And we also wanted to be proactive if this were to ever happen again. And we thought back to when we purchased this house 3 years ago, that provided us safety and security. No one could tell us we had to leave. We could invite, whoever we wanted to have come over here versus, renting or leasing an apartment, in your lease, you can't sublet, you can't have so many visitors and things like that. Uh, so we thought about the tiny house project, and we never imagined that the GoFundMe would have taken off the way it did. We never imagined that our houses would be as beautiful as they are. Because in our heads, we were thinking like 4 walls, a window, a door, maybe a porch. Like we didn't think that we would have people pouring in support, like from our architects to our general contractors to Vanessa Roth and National Geographic and Gal Gadot. Like we had no idea that we would be here now, and it's really overwhelming in such great way.
That's amazing. That's so great. And you've built what, more than 24 houses across Memphis? Is that right?
Not yet. I wish, because I would be with Arianna in Puerto Rico if that was the case. Yes, filtering water, or in one of the mineral springs up there, because I heard they're lovely. But no, we've only completed one house, and we have 2 under construction. And we're working with our architects on our next 4 bills, which will be across the street from our 2 that are under construction.
So the plan is to do it, get a couple dozen of them.
Yes.
Okay.
20 is our goal, and we're planning to do a lot more. And because of the exposure that the Impact series has given us, a lot of our city organizing has like been kind of geared toward what can the city and county do for MSH and the Tiny House Project. So we're working now on a moral budget to include a community land trust for TGNC people, so that we can build more than 20 homes, because it's going to, like, there are a lot of trans people here in Memphis. And I think that would be a major and a significant impact for trans people here in Memphis to feel like they belong here. I think it's just phenomenal that we were selected, and like, yeah, because I know there are so many different impactful people in this world, especially women, and just to be selected alongside the other 5 women it's phenomenal.
Well, I think everything you guys are all doing is really phenomenal. So congratulations to all of you. Chief Shirell, your real name is Killer Red Fox. I love that. And you're the first female chief of your tribe in the Louisiana Gulf Coast. So how did your becoming a chief come about?
So I was chosen by my elders. My uncle was chief. My grandfather was chief. This is something that you're called to do, and it basically started with me and my work and understanding different documents and things, because I used to work as a legal assistant for an attorney here where I stay. And, I understood some of the policies that were being proposed, which we really had no say so over the things that were, being suggested in our own backyards. So we didn't have a voice. And I also was responsible for preparing our petition, well, the second submission of our petition for federal acknowledgement, which is extremely lengthy. There's 7 mandatory criteria. So I had my duties set out. And as time kind of went on, the elders, my uncle, who was chief at the time, were talking to me and asking me about taking the position as chief. And I was absolutely terrified, because that's a huge duty. And, my uncle would talk, and then he would let me be, right? And I would go to another meeting. I would get really fired up about the things that were taking place that we had no say so over. And I would come back, and he would talk to me again. And, finally he sat me down and he said, do you know what makes a good chief? And of course I didn't. And, so I said, no, I don't. No means uncle in our language. And he explained to me that a chief is someone who serves their people, right? It's a calling, and you need to love your people, but not just your own people, all people for that matter. You have to understand that we are all related, and that we are all part of a system that is here on this planet, right? So after a while of seeing what was happening, and knowing that my uncle was blind and could not go to these different meetings, could not actively represent our people the way that he wanted to, I accepted. And I've been chief now for over 14 years. It's been a long time, and it still feels like yesterday. I can honestly say that it's definitely been a learning experience every single day. And I'm really, really thankful for being entrusted with that duty.
That's so wonderful. And you've spoken a lot to like governmental entities in the state of Louisiana, and then also the climate summits and all of that, about the problems that your community faces, and the commercial interests, what they've done to your community and to the habitat around it. You said that you'll fight for as long as it takes, and you seem to me that maybe you have always been a fighter, or is this something that's is this something that you feel strongly about?
It's yes. We had a really awesome upbringing. I loved my dad and my mom, and my dad really instilled in us the importance of standing your ground, right? And definitely educating yourself, always ask questions. But you have to be willing to speak, right? And you have to be willing to stand up for that greater purpose. Because technically that is our purpose here. We should be here caring for each other, right? And being there for each other. And in a lot of the things that I was seeing, especially in my position as chief, there was literally no love there. There was no no consideration for the impact to our environment, no consideration to the impact to our community and our identity. And, so I had to take everything that I was taught from who we are and be able to bring that into the arena, right? And explain why we should be protecting our environment, why it's important to protect each other, right? And yes, we are very diverse. Yes, the United States is extremely diverse. And with all of the challenges that we face, especially in my own community, it's going to take that diversity, right? And unity to be able to overcome these challenges and create a positive progress and a brighter future for our future generations in this planet. So yeah, we've had that instilled in us to speak and raise our voice. And I've definitely carried that with me throughout the years and utilized it definitely a lot better now that I'm older, to learn how to use my fighting voice for the greater good. But yeah, and that's something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my time here on this planet, is making sure that I do my part and that I speak and I fight as long as it takes, because, we're beautiful and this is worth fighting for.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Well, you mentioned, the impact, and I thought that's that word just jumped out because of the name of the series, and I thought that has several meanings. Vanessa, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because obviously these women are making a huge impact, and then they're dealing with the impact of, whether it's transphobia or whether it's environment, all the impact of those things in our culture. So, how did you come up with that particular title? Because it just seems like it's multi-purpose.
Yes, exact. Yes. I mean, just we are very deliberately exactly what you just said. And it's how we searched for the stories and the women that we searched for, was that this idea of we are all impacted by, whether it is discrimination, whether it's human rights issues, whether it's the environment or violence or an internal wound, or, any of these things that we're impacted by that we don't actually have any control over. But the women in the series, what they've done is they've chosen to turn that prism sort of, around and say, how can I now make an impact, back and in a positive way? And so they're people who have, whether, I was going to say they chose, but I don't think it's even a choosing. I think it's this will, something that just sort of comes forward and says, I don't have actually a choice. I didn't really decide to do this. I mean, I know, everyone makes those steps, like the logistics of things, but there's something about all the women in the series that were just really pulled and drawn and felt a purpose and a meaning to impact what was impacting them, and help someone else. And that's been a big thing for us too, is looking at that ripple effect. Once one person ventures to act, what that does to the community, what that does to themselves, what that does to all those forces that were acting on them to begin with. And then what I also love about documentary filmmaking as a way to amplify that work is that then we hope, right, that people can see the series, and then the audience then becomes engaged and involved and impacted, and that hopefully then that continues. I know Kayla has talked about too, at a time in her life, she was helped or supported by something or someone that gave her that chance, and now she's turning that back around. And I feel like when we're able to do that, we are able to start, I don't know, just like everything that Chief Shirell said, if I could say it the way she said it. But yeah, I mean, again, it's back to, there was an early phase of, we were in production and we were kind of going through titles of both the series and then each episode. And so we had talked about, is there another name? And my partner, all of us, we just kept coming back to impact. It just is exactly what this is about in every direction.
I wanted to ask you about some of the logistics too, because just in talking right now to these three amazing women, and in the other three women who you covered, it's so, how do you winnow it down to, what is it, 12 to 16 minutes per story? Because I mean, each person could probably have a 2-hour documentary done about the work that they're doing. So
Yeah.
that must have really presented a huge challenge for you.
Yes, they can all be multi-series, seasons, podcasts forever. I mean, again, just when I sit and just listen to, I'm like sitting like this because I'm always just like, I just want to hear more. I just feel so filled by all of your wisdom. But there was something special for me in actually making these short films. Sorry. I usually do series and features, and I tend to follow stories for years and years, and be on call for a really long time. There was something about this though that I think is just, even just my own career has been really special to me. Having a moment, impact takes a really long time, and we could have chosen to follow, and we could, right, choose to follow all the things that are going on. And these are things that are going to take years, because they do. Impact is not something that happens in a one shot deal. But I feel like what we were able to do is capture sort of a tiny moment, capture a moment within this larger impact with each of the women. And within that moment, I feel like we captured this sort of this moment of during COVID. We captured this moment within their impact that's going to evolve, that's going to change. And I thought that was really special. And I think that it was a challenge, but also I liked it as a good challenge when we edited, to be able to winnow it down to that 12 to 15 minutes, so that we actually have audiences that will actually watch the whole thing. I think, like, as the viewers here who make documentaries or love documentaries, I know they've become very popular and people like watching them, but I know it's also, when you say, oh, it's something that actually has meaning and substance, it's hard sometimes to get people to really stay with you. I'm not the audience that is probably watching this, but our series, I wanted to be sure that we capture people and are able to tell the story in an emotional, sort of both intimate, again, and epic way, that can be beautiful and heartfelt and leave a person inspired and willing to and wanting to do something, instead of maybe tired or, so there was some sweet spot, I think, about making these short. I love it, actually. And maybe we could keep going back. I love to, the other big thing is, again, like, if I make films over years and years, no one gets to see all the stuff that I know about, whatever, for so much time. And in this, we got to make them, put them together, they're out in the world. And that's going to, again, back to that impact thing, maybe it even in real time starts helping evolve the work that they're all already doing.
Yeah, that's right. So it can take so long to make a movie. And I think it's always, there's something really great about leave people wanting more, in terms of, wanting to do more, to know more, and to dig deeper. So you definitely do that. How challenging was it to film during COVID? Because I noticed in almost all of them, people were wearing masks, and, just the logistics of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like constant discussion, decision making of, do we go? Can we go? Who can shoot? Who can't? Like, is it okay with the community? Is it okay with the women in the series? Like, what are we going to do for safety? We made some really hard decisions of not all of us in our core team being present on the ground, and spending time with Kayla and Arianna. A lot of the interviews was me on Zoom, next to the camera, and a lot of prep, and I said earlier, but my style and the style of this whole thing is really collaborative. We don't see ourselves as coming in and telling someone's story, but is making sure we're just amplifying the story that the women in the series own themselves. It's their own narrative, their own story. So we spent a lot of time in these kinds of video conferences about what should we shoot, where should we shoot, what do you want to make sure we talk about, what's important to you, and then making sure we had local crews everywhere we went who were also experts you know, in the area and in the language. And oh gosh, sorry, I thought I turned that off. So again, we just sort of constantly were revisiting, like, what's the most important thing at this moment for this episode to work. One thing I remember when we were going to shoot the story in California, which is, you know, which is about this surf therapy program, and California had just been going through all the wildfires. So we have to keep also like watching, like, can we go even? And then should we include the wildfires in the story? But the story, it was just very much in real time, figuring out going to Puerto Rico, whether we could go and how long to quarantine. You know, it was all, yeah, again, all happening in real time. And it also, COVID made it interesting to me, because I also felt like we could have backed away and said, let's not do this right now, because like you said, we see a lot of masks, and maybe just cinematically it's not as amazing to see people's faces just with masks or something like that. But what it did give us was this opportunity to see, like, really the true power of these women and will of these women, because their impact just grew. They didn't shrink because of COVID. Their responsibilities and their mission and their purpose and their actions just actually widened. You know, in Brazil, Tuani, who is a ballet dancer and had this ballet school, because of COVID, it became the center of the community, where people got food, where people, you know, had each other to connect with, and it became the most important community place in that area. I know Chief Shirell was so active in making sure she kept her community safe, and she was a place to make sure to check on everyone and give people things, and it just added to what she was doing. Obviously, Kayla started what she's doing because of COVID. And I know Arianna with the water as well. Obviously, having clean water was, you know, one of the most important thing to make sure people had good hygiene and could stay safe. So, I mean, again, COVID impacted every single episode.
And communities of color were harder hit, right?
Yeah.
Americans and African Americans, Latinos, all, you know, they were the ones who were suffering more. So that provided I'm sure, an even greater hurdle and an impetus too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask everyone here, so all of your episodes, these 3 episodes have aired already, right, in May, this past month. So what has been some of the feedback, or what have you heard from people, the wider community, as a result of your efforts? So just anyone who wants to jump in and tell me.
I will definitely, first and foremost, I did not get the chance to thank everyone for having me, and the women that are part of the series really have inspired me as well in my own work. And Vanessa can tell you that I was really concerned about my community being shown to the world, because we are often stereotyped in a very negative light. So I was really protective over them, right? Because I understand them, and they are so beautiful. Like, they're just amazing, wonderful people. And I really have to say that the entire film team, the whole team, Vanessa, Ryan, everyone was absolutely amazing and wonderful, and just came in with love and respect, and definitely wanted to show the truth. They wanted to show the impact, and they really went above and beyond to love us. And we have gotten nothing but amazing responses from everyone that has seen it, and it has gone so far. My people are proud. They feel loved and respected, and they are very proud of me for doing this. I really enjoyed learning about this work and contributing. Very deep respect for anyone in any aspect of the filming industry. So, and it has really brought on new connections, especially in the scientific community, from people that have just been inspired, and they're like, okay, we might be only be able to do something that's going to positively impact the next 2 generations, but can we do that? I'm like, come on, because that's the next 2 generations are going to come in and they're going to be able to add to that. So it has just been such a blessing and so inspirational to me to be able to be alongside these amazing women and to be able to watch their stories and just it's been a blessing, and I'm just so thankful, and I wanted everyone to know that. Thank you.
That's great. What that kind of leads me to the next question, which is what has been, one of the most gratifying aspects of making this series. And I want to ask all of you, but I'll start with Vanessa. A lot that's been gratifying, but
yeah, like part of what I was saying is just listening to any of them speak it's really gratifying. It's why I do what I do, is these relationships that unless I had this profession that I have, I would never get a chance to meet these amazing people. And so that's the most gratifying, is these connections now that I have personally. Another really gratifying thing, as I've said to all of them anytime we see each other, is that I only feel successful if the people who I'm making a project about feels that they were treated well, that they're shown with the dignity that they deserve, that I, again, as an amplifier of their own lives, am doing something that's going to add positivity. And it's always, a really terrifying thing to me to put these stories out, because you don't know the response. And I just, the bravery of the people who choose to be in documentaries, I think, is, could be a whole other panel discussion about opening your life up for people to see what you're doing. It really says a lot about what you believe in, because you're okay to, you're saying, I'm okay with whatever comes back, at me. So I'm just always
faith in the film. It requires a lot of faith in the filmmaker, doesn't it?
So much faith and trust. And then, so I guess, again, to me, what's gratifying is hearing good things that hopefully can come out of the work that we do together. There's creative gratification when when the music's working, and when you can tell a story that has beauty and art to it, and that's also true. And there's all that, the creative gratification. But to me, really, what means something to me at the end of the day is that maybe something that I've been a part of does contribute to the impact, and that the women here are having. So
absolutely, yeah. I'd love to hear from Kayla and everyone, actually, just sort of last thoughts. I'm sure at some point along the way, you guys, as resilient and as determined as you all are, there must have been a time, when you're dealing with like government failing you and these huge challenges, where you felt like, the hope was hard to keep. It was hard to keep going. And how do you deal with all that? What inspirational advice can you give to other people who are, dealing with?
Well, for me, Claudia, I would say a message I got just like 2 days ago from somebody who saw the Impact series. They saw the whole series, and it was a young trans person. And I tell media this all the time when they ask the question, like, what motivates me? And it's about the people who are coming behind me. And she alluded to that, like that we're not just doing this for the present day, but we're actually doing this for people who we have never even met. People who will be here 20 years from now. And that's what it does for me. Like, I literally like bawled when I saw her message, just saying that she's a stealth trans person, a youth. Nobody in her school really knows that she's trans. But seeing me, on the big screen, it gives her hope that she doesn't have to be so resilient, and she doesn't have to be so strong, and she doesn't have to hide her true identity. So that's what motivates me. And then seeing the walls go up and people moving into the houses, that also motivates me. And also having people who are living in the tiny houses say, "Oh, my air went out," or "Can you come and check this?" Like it becomes real. It becomes so real. And another thing, the production team helped so much with like moving our project, like, and that was super helpful to me because I've never built a house before. I've never done this before. So just having more people hands on, talking to the architects, talking to the contractors, it kind of put some fire under them. So it helped with our project. It really did. And they were very courteous and kind. And as Chief said, like, hats off, kudos to people who are in production, behind the scenes or in front of the scene. Because yeah, 7 a.m. call times are real. And but yeah, I'm so appreciative of the whole experience.
That's so great. Arianna, I remember there was a woman in your segment that said, "This is the greatest gift that anyone has ever given me, the clean water." And that was so touching because she was an older woman and you assume she's gotten some nice gifts maybe, or just love through her life. So what are some of the things that gratify you? I know, you're just starting out. You're 20 now, right?
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, tell me.
Yeah. Um, it's definitely really hard when you're talking to these people in these communities and you're really hearing their stories and how much they struggle with these kinds of issues, especially with the water crisis that we're going through right now. And I think that what's gratifying about this process is that, a lot of the conversation that took place with that woman was behind the scenes, right? The cameras didn't record some of what we were talking, right? Some of the things that we were talking about. And she would tell me that all her life she'd struggle with depression. And a big part of it was because of, right, water, right? She would have to, the amount of money that these people have to use in order to buy gallons of water, bottles of water. And it's insane when you put these numbers together. I can't remember them at the top of my head, but when you put it all together, these people are suffering. It's affecting them. It's a ripple effect. It's affecting them economically as well, socially, emotionally, right? So I feel like what motivates me is that when I hear these stories and then when I have someone tell me, wow, like you've given me the greatest gift I've ever had in my entire life, it motivates me to know that I'm actually making a difference and that these people are telling me, wow, you just made a change in my life. Like you inspired me. And not only that, like, it's amazing that we get to amplify these stories and that we have these amazing people that want to help us amplify these stories. And so I completely agree with what Kayla and Chief Shirell said. I completely resonate with what you guys said with all of it. And I feel like it's just it was such a beautiful experience. And to just really tell this story and these stories, in general to the world, helps us not only just inspire people in our communities, but just people out there in the world who are saying, hey, I'm also going through this, right? My family, my friends, and I can make an impact. I don't have to be super rich. I don't have to be, again, it's really hard when you don't have all the resources to make the difference that you want to make the impact, right? But I think what's important is to really start, to make that first step, to really say, okay, what can I do? What is in my power to help people? What kinds of privileges do I have? What kinds of resources do I have that other people don't? So that I can help other people, so that I can use that, right? And that's sort of what happened with me, right? I'm extremely privileged that I live in the metropolitan area where even though I've struggled my whole life with water issues and, it's something very normal here to just receive dirty water in the faucet in the morning or just wake up one day and just not have water at all. Even though it's something normal, I'm very lucky that most of the days I do have this access to water, right? Knowing that other people don't have this access really it really bothers me, right? So just finding those solutions and using that privilege and using those resources and that power that you have to inspire people is really important. And I feel like everyone should really take that into consideration and just just find something that motivates you. And I think that for me, talking to people, knowing that I'm making an impact, knowing that I'm not only making their lives, helping make their lives better, but I'm also helping them emotionally and mentally. I'm helping these people be happier. I'm helping them heal. So yeah, I think that's what really just motivates me and really also inspires me. So
Absolutely. That is amazing. Well, we've come to the end of our road here, and it's been so wonderful to talk with all of you. You've definitely, I'm sure everyone listening feels the same way. You've definitely inspired me. So, Vanessa, Roth, thank you so much for this great series and for amplifying these voices. And Kayla, Gore, Arianna Fontmartin, and Chief Shirell, Parfait-Dardar, thank you for your dedication and your inspirational work.
Thank you so much for spending this time. I appreciate it so much. And I love seeing you all. It's such a treat.